hear me okay? Today's webinar is being recorded. Please can everyone make sure that their video is switched off and only use first names when addressing others in the chat to ensure there is no identification of individuals after the session. We record webinars for a number of reasons, for internal training purposes, to provide to our funders as part of our commitment to them, and so that trainees can watch these sessions in future in order to support their career development where they have been unable to attend the live sessions. We store these videos on our secure internal Teams platform and as private YouTube videos, which cannot be accessed without our permission. We store these videos for a maximum of 5 years. You will have the right to choose to leave the session at any stage, and if you do wish to not to be recorded. If you do choose to leave, we will hold another unrecorded webinar at another time. If you have spoken during the session and wish the recording to be deleted, we will do so. Neither Microsoft Teams or Springboard store any information about you, including your IP address. For further information, please visit the news article in Flow, which is called Understanding Webinars. Thank you.
Thanks, Isabel. That's fantastic. So welcome everybody. I'm just going to ask you if you can jot down any questions that you have throughout the webinar, and we'll answer them at the end. It will just give us a kind of seamless webinar today and just make it flow a bit better and go a bit smoothly. And David, we should take about 30 minutes really, 30-40 minutes. That should get us through some of the questions, and then we'll get some answers at the end. Questions at the end, I should say.
Okay.
So, thanks so much for coming, David. As I said to you, we've got a real mixture of people, mainly front of house people, some people that have got experience, some people that are just coming into the industry. And so we just today want to hear a wee bit about you, really. I know that you've had a very varied career and there's lots of different things that you've done. So can you tell us a wee bit about what you're doing at the moment? I know it's really interesting to me because I've done some of the programmes there in the prisons. So tell us a wee bit about your job role and what a typical day looks like.
Right. Well, I have to emphasise I've had a little bit of information from prison services before, because through Springboard a couple of years ago I went to do a careers day at this prison that I'm now working in, where there was people from all over. There was myself and people from the Hilton and Q Hotels and other hotel companies. And we all went and we were given lunch, and then the prisoners came and we all sat down and chatted and explained to them where they could maybe go when they got out and stuff like that. Fast forward 2 years, and because I've been furloughed and I've been vetted to be able to work in a prison, I find myself working with some of these people who I met 2 years ago, who are still inside, who are still working their sentence. What happens is, it is very, very strange. There's a team of chefs, of which I'm just an agency guy, so I just go wherever they tell me. There's a team of chefs who work there full time and a catering manager. And there's only about 5 of them in the kitchen at any one time. We're feeding 800 inmates a day, twice a day, 7 days a week. So the majority of the cooking is actually done by the prisoners that come in. So we have access to one of the wings, who they send over 25 people every morning. It's the same 25 people. We know them all. They're all been vetted and they're all doing things. And then we literally just set them on. And if I'm on production, for example, we'll have 800 lasagnas to make and other dishes to do and stuff like that. So we'll get all the food out for them and say that, there you go. And we literally just let them get on with it. We guide them. We tell them what they need to put in everything. But because you've got lots of manpower, we are doing everything from fresh. So everything, we don't buy in any pre-cooked food or anything like that. Everything is made on site. There's a bakery on site as well, so we do all our own bakery, all our own pastry work and all these things. And when it's open as a normal prison and there's visitors coming in, which are not because of lockdown, they sell all the bakery stuff to the visitors who are visiting their partners or husbands or whatever. So it's like a little cottage industry all in its own. And we, like I say, we serve 800 meals twice a day, 7 days a week. It's quite impressive. It's huge operation. It was difficult a couple of months ago because the wing that we use, They got COVID, so they had to lock down. So then we were getting prisoners from another wing who had never been in the kitchen before. So you just had a team of people who were just
because
pairs
everybody has to eat.
exactly. And we still turn the food out. All the food's then parcelled up into hot cupboards, and each wing gets a hot cupboard with all their meals in. Bit like a hospital, they all pre-order, so they know what they're going to get a week in advance. Obviously, there's people who change their minds, and we have dietary requirements to work to. There's people with underlying health issues. There are people with cultural and religious beliefs for what they can and can't eat. So not only do we do 5 choices each day, each meal time. So there's 3 hot dishes, 2 cold dishes, plus all the ancillary bits and pieces that go with it. But then on top of that, each wing there will be individual diets for celiacs, gluten-frees, people who can't have peanuts, celery. All the allergens are gone through, and everybody knows what they're getting. But sometimes we have to do individual meals as well.
We wonder how that we ever actually worked without having that information, and one of the things that that we've done with these guest webinars and that the students have access to is this just shows us how versatile hospitality is. We've had people that from the Royal Navy, we've had people from 5-star, we had the HR director from Le Manoir, we have people from like you that are working in prisons, we have people that are working offshore and oil rigs. So I guess what we need to show our trainees is how versatile hospitality is, and at every stage of your career there can be something different for you, and it's never a destination, it's always a kind of moving thing. So the next kind of question I've got for you really is, tell us a wee bit about your journey and how you got started in hospitality.
Well, interestingly enough, I one of the first places I worked when I was on a college placement was a Michelin-starred restaurant, and I went to college in Leeds. I had no clue when I left school what I really wanted to do. My family are farmers. My dad's a farmer. My older brother is a farmer. The only thing I was certain of was that I wasn't going to be a farmer. Didn't really know what else I was going to do. And I got a part-time job working in a pub with a restaurant. I was too young to serve behind the bar, so I worked in the restaurant. Quite enjoyed that. So then went to college, which was Thomas Danby in Leeds at the time. Went there and did my BTEC diploma. Whilst I was doing that, it incorporated a year's work experience, but they broke the year's experience down into 3 terms. So we did the last term in the first year, the second term in the second year, and the first term in the last year. So we got a year's worth of week. So I got to go to 3 different hotels in 3 very different parts of the country. And I distinctly remember going up to Pitlochry in Scotland when I was 17. My parents just literally, I filled up 2 suitcases. They dropped me off at Leeds City Station and said, "We'll see you in 3 months," and that was it. This was a while ago. No mobile phones. No mobile phones, no laptops. I became quite a prolific letter writer because I used to write home every week to say what I was up to, and I'd go down and use the public phone once a week. But I had an absolute fantastic time. It was like walking into a family. It was freedom, but like walking. I was living in, which was all new to me. I met people from all over the world because there was a guy from Canada was the wine waiter. There was plenty of Scottish people there, but there was people from other parts of the world as well who you worked with. And it's just this strange mix of people that all come together to work in this environment. And you've got chefs. I was a waiter. You've got people who are working behind the bar. You've got night porters. And I was very lucky because I quite enjoyed everything I did. So they kept moving me around. So I did a bit of night portering. I did a bit of bar work when I turned 18. Did a bit of portering and did a lot of being a waiter and being a breakfast waiter and room service and stuff like that. And I just absolutely loved it. But it isn't for everybody. I remember when I got back to college after my placement, there were quite a lot of people who dropped out, who'd done that, and they thought, you know what? This isn't for me. But that's probably a good time to find out when you're 16, 17, rather than getting 10 years down the line and being in a job that you don't enjoy.
I think the key thing is to is to try it out, isn't it? Because I
Yeah.
know I was very much like you, where I went around all different departments. And actually, the last department I was in was the kitchen. When I was doing my HND, part of my college course was in the kitchen, and I thought, actually, let's see if I can get a job. I really didn't think I would get it, and I did. It's a very long story, but to cut a long story short, I was in a kitchen and I loved it. I was making bread, I was making scones, I was making fresh soup, you know, every day and this kind of thing. I remember sometimes the boss came in and just put rhubarb down on my table and went, make something with that, Sam. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe you gave me a job as a cook, never mind anything else. So, but yeah, I made rhubarb and ginger mousse and, you know, and so you find when you go into hospitality, you started off as a waiter, that, you know, there are so many different genres to it. And if you get that light bulb moment where you think, this is a job that I'm really going to enjoy, then it can last your whole career, you know, like it has for you. So tell me, what was it sort of highlight of your career, do you think?
Well, do you know, somebody asked me this the other day. Somebody actually asked me, it was my wife's aunt, we were talking about something, and she said to me, if you could look at all the places you've worked at, which one would you go back to? Which one did you enjoy the most? And I said, everyone is being so different. Sometimes I've
Yeah.
been working in a restaurant. I've worked in some really super fine dining hotels where people have been turning up in helicopters, landing them on the front lawn, coming in for lunch and going away again. You know,
Yeah.
these are seriously wealthy people. And then I worked for Pizza Express for a while. I worked for them for 3 years, where again it was very high turnover, fast service. Done contract catering. I worked at Leeds Arena, which is a massive music arena, built about 5 or 6 years ago, as a head chef there. And now, for reasons of furlough and COVID, I'm working in a prison. And every single job though is different, and everything is so diverse. So yeah, I've served members of the royal family. I've served celebrities in hotels and in restaurants, and I've served very, very fabulously wealthy people. But then at the same time, I've worked in prisons and served people who've got no money at all. But everything's different, and you learn something new everywhere you go. But it's all
Yeah.
about meeting people and how you get on with those people and what you take
Yeah.
from them people, and also what you bring to that environment. And you are part of a team.
Yeah.
You are learning new things all the time. I'm in my 50s now, and I still, every day is a new day. Every day, I remember when I first walked in the prison, and I worked in some big kitchens, but this place is like nothing I'd ever seen before. These brat pans and copper boiling pans, you could sit a full family in them and bath them in. This is how big they are. And you think this is pretty impressive, but
Yeah.
you know, it's a new experience. Do I want to do it for the rest of my working career? Possibly not, but it's something new that I will take away, and I will store that away, and something will come up at some point, and I'll remember what I learned 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and pull it out
Yeah.
and use it for an event or a function or something like that. So
Yeah.
there's no one
Sure.
highlight for me at all from work, because I genuinely, obviously I have bad days, and obviously I have times when I work in somewhere and think, why am I here? This job's not for me. But
We all have those days, David.
generally, everything, it's all about what you get out of it whilst you're there. And I think always what makes it is the people that you work with, the team that you're
Yeah.
surrounded by. And if you
Yeah.
can't mix with people, then that's where you're going to struggle.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, that's what kind of made it for me as well. I've got friends that, you know, from, like you say, all over the world that I still keep in touch with. I've still got letters that I've written to them and things like that, you know. But yeah, for me, it was always the people and everybody just working together to make it come together, you know, even when we were in adverse situations, when we were short-staffed, or when, you know, a busload of people turned up out of the blue, and, you know, these kind of things. So the next question really is, what have been some challenging parts for you, and what our trainees maybe want to know? They're kind of just maybe getting started, or they're maybe just going in and thinking, you know, I've been out of work for a long time now with COVID. What if I make a mistake? How do you kind of get over those setbacks and challenges that you face?
Well, I mean, every day is a new day, and it is really difficult at the moment. I when I went to work at the prison, I hadn't cooked in over a year, not commercially, because the job I have at Compass doesn't require me to do a lot of cooking. So I was out of practice. But these things come back to you. But just starting out, it is just a case of getting to know your surroundings and knowing where you are, and
Yeah.
so you're comfortable in everything that you're doing, and not being afraid to ask people and say, honesty is the key. I used to say this to waiters when I do briefings in a restaurant, and we'd go through the menu and we'd say, this is what's on tonight, and I always used to say to people, never lie to the customer. Just if a customer says, right, I want to know how such and such is cooked, or I want to know about it. If you don't know, the best thing you can say is, do you know what? I don't know, but I can go and find out, rather than making something up, because they will have more respect for you that you've gone away, you found out, you come back, and you won't forget again. And it's the same when you're working within a team. Honesty is the key. If somebody said, throw something at you like a couple of lobsters and say, right, there you go, get on with that. You've got to put your hand up and say, I've never done this before. I'm probably going to ruin a very expensive dish here. So please give me some guidance. And that is always the way.
And I think that's it. I mean, wherever I've worked as well, that has been something that has been throughout it, is that people have said, well, I'll help you. I remember I had one lady who was a trainee with me, and she'd hurt her arm, and she'd been a chef all her life, really, and she was kind of getting into her 50s as well, and she was like, nobody will want me, Sam, I won't be able to carry hot pans and stuff like that. And I said, what would you do if you were in a kitchen and somebody asked you for some help with holding a pot of a pan? And she said, I would help them. I says, well, there you go then. So you're absolutely right. It's really good advice for, always just don't be scared to ask for help. And I think we're all guilty of that we think, oh, we can do it ourselves, and, oh, I should have remembered that, or whatever. But yeah, absolutely ask for help. You get information overload when you're going into a new job. And sometimes it's good to just kind of, take a step back and just summarize what the person has said to you, and kind of, make sure that you're getting it right, and then you'll feel a whole lot better. And yeah, absolutely, don't be afraid to ask for help. So thanks for that advice. That's definitely one of the things I would say.
No, you don't get me wrong. These screaming, shouty chefs, they do exist, and they are still there. It's not all just Gordon Ramsay, and it is a bit unnerving. But at the end of the day, they're always going to be there, but they're getting less and less, and there's a lot more respect for young people who are coming through into the industry, who people accept they've got to learn, and if they don't learn, this industry will never die, but it's constantly evolving. But people have got to learn, and you've got to have that wherewithal, and it builds up a mutual respect. If people then say, do you know what? He may not know what he's doing, but he's keen, he's willing, he wants to learn, then that's got to be worth something. And anybody's like that with me, I'll spend all day with them showing them something, because they genuinely want to have to do it.
Well, we're constantly saying to our trainees that, we can, in the industry, we recruit for a good attitude, and we can teach you and we can train you the skill, and that's kind of, that can-do attitude where, nothing's too much trouble. You're showing that you're keen, you're turning up on time, you're trying your best to keep everything running on the ball and doing all the jobs that you're asked to do, and it goes a long way, and people do recognise it in the industry, like you're saying, that keenness and that good attitude. So it does go a long way, and you're right, it's not perfect, but majority of the time somebody will help you if you ask for support, and that's one of the reasons that we're in place as well, is for kind of have that kind of conversation so that we can help as well. We always say, talk, don't walk, come and speak to us. If you can't speak to anybody at work, come and speak to us, we'll talk it through with you, and this kind of thing as well. So thank you for that. Most of our trainees are in an into work program, David. So when you're recruiting new people for your team, what kind of things are you looking for in CVs and application forms in order to bring them to interview? And then at interview, what are you looking for?
Well, when I get sent interviews, it depends. I mean, Compass, for example, if I had to put a job out for Compass, let's say I wanted a food service assistant, I would have to tell resources, they would then put the advert out, and then the CV goes to them and they vet it originally, Now, I'm not a big fan of that. I personally want to look at everybody's CV. I like to see who, and then what they do is they'll whittle it down to about half a dozen and then send me the half dozen who they think I'm going to want to see. But on a CV, again, comes down to honesty. There is no point in lying because you will get found out because someone will ask you something on there and say, well, and if you're not being truthful, you'll get caught out. If it's a young person who's not had a lot of experience, you need to put that in your CV, and you need to make it as obvious as possible that yes, you haven't had much experience, but you really want to learn. This is what you're interested in. This is what your passion is. So if it's baking, put that you like baking. If you enjoy making soups and sauces at home, put that. Then people know that there is that germ of interest, and maybe even put where you got that interest from. Did you get it from watching Gordon Ramsay on the telly? Did you get it from the fact that your granny was a particularly good cook? I want to know that. And I tell you, the other thing that I always find interesting is I like to know what people do for hobbies as well, because I don't want people just focusing on their work. I want to be able to know that when they've finished work, they're going out and they're doing something that's going to take their mind completely off work. So if they go off running or whitewater rafting or something like that, it's something. All too often, particularly young people, you look at their CV and they put the hobbies and they put, oh, when I'm off, I like being in the kitchen cooking and I like reading recipe books. And I think, but that's too much. You do it, you're just focusing on this all the time. You need to get on your bike and go and have a ride, or go and play rugby, or do something different that takes you completely away from just focusing on the catering.
I think as well as, it's that mind, body and soul kind of thing as well, isn't it? If you're not already doing that, it's a really good way to release, because it can be stressful when you're first going into work. It's really fast paced. You've got an awful lot of things going on, a lot of information to take in, as I said, and being able to get that outlet. And also it's looking after yourself, isn't it? It's that physical fitness and that helps you to kind of think, right, that person is really looking after themselves, and I'm not going to have somebody who's ill all the time and just sitting in the bedroom or whatever.
The one thing I'll say about this industry, I've always said this: catering generally, the actual makeup of it is quite easy. You turn up, you cook some food, somebody serves it, and you go home. There's all sorts of different levels that you cook it at, but it is a fairly straightforward process. What makes it hard is it's stressful. There's a lot going on all at once. There's a lot of people making a lot of noise for a very short period of time, and that's what it's that going on in your head. You're on your feet all the time. It's very, very tiring, and that's what makes it hard. But the actual ramifications of cooking a meal, putting it on a plate and sending it out really isn't that difficult. But it's everything that goes on around you, and it's getting into that mindset of having all of those things that are going on around you at the same time. And certainly when people come to me for an interview, what I look for every single time is enthusiasm and a willingness to learn, and at whatever level, because anything else can be taught. But if you've got the right attitude, you've got the right mental ability for it, and you really want to go and do your best. And even if somebody's coming in as a kitchen porter and that's what they've decided, that's what they're going to do, and they're going to be the best at it that they can, then that's great. And if they want to then progress from there up, then that's even better still. But it's having that attitude of never thinking of it, it's just a job. All too often with catering, certainly when I first started, was you went into catering because there was nothing else you'd be able to do. And it gets this bad press of, well, it's McDonald's, it's KFC, anybody can stand behind a counter, or anybody can stand behind a bar pulling pints. That's part of it. We all go to the pub when they're open, and we all go to these fast food places when they're open. But then there's so much more. So people who think, oh, he's gone into that because, and I got it when I was a kid. People said, oh, he's only doing that because he didn't get many O levels. And I didn't get many O levels. But actually now I've got a degree in hospitality management, and I've had a career for 32 years. That still pays quite a good wage. So, and I've met some amazing people, and I've been all around the world. So I've actually had quite a good life. But it is very much what you make it. But it's all about, at that initial stage, the enthusiasm and the willingness to learn and wanting to know what's what and where things are.
Absolutely, and there are so many skills that you learn from being a bartender, especially now. I mean, we have a Diageo bartending course running, and there are people on the call from that course. And they're making cocktails now. The bartending is so much different to when I worked in a bar, and I was just flung in at the deep end and told to get on with it. There are so many techniques. There's so many things to juggle as well, because being a bartender can sometimes be a bit theatrical, and it can be a very much of a show behind that bar for the customer. And so there's so many skills that you'll learn, not just customer service, not just meeting deadlines, not just the technical and the product knowledge, but also the stocking of the fridges and the stock taking and the cleaning and there's so many things, isn't there? And it can take you in so many different directions, whether that is on the job training to work up yourself up the ladder, or even if it's other industries. I mean, I know that I've moved around and things like that as well, and now in training from a hospitality position. And I think you've done that, and when you've been furloughed as well, you've got your BTEC and your teacher training thing as well, David. Yeah. So thank you so much for everything that you've told us today. I think I'm going to open the floor to any questions, but it's been such brilliant advice. Thank you. And it's great to see somebody starting out and having this really long career and really varied career. So thanks so much for that. I'm just going to open the floor to any questions from anybody. Oh, I'm heard a bit of tumbleweed. What about Nick or Jan or Isabel, the programme managers? Any questions for David?
Yes, thanks. It's Isabel here. So
Hi,
that was
Isabel.
brilliant, David. Hi, really good.
Hi.
That's really interesting. I was very interested to hear you mentioning hobbies and how much attention you pay to hobbies on the CV. We're going to be doing CV skills on Monday in our course, and a lot of people don't think that hobbies is that relevant. So I thought that was really, really interesting. So you're saying you'd rather see different hobbies to ones that are related to the job. What's the best hobby you've ever seen listed on a CV?
I don't think I've seen whitewater rafting, although I do keep coming out that. I've seen clay pigeon shooting a few times, rock climbing. You see some really bizarre things. Occasionally you'll see things and you have to, but it's a good icebreaker. You'll say, I've never heard of this before. Explain it to me, and it might be something that like some caving that people do and strange things like that. I'm quite boring. I just go fishing, but that for me is I go on my own, and that's my time to sit for a couple of hours and just do something by myself, because I'm surrounded by people the rest of the time. But it's all about making sure you've got that break. I think a lot of people coming into this industry don't realize that there are going to be days when you're going to be on your feet for 10, 12 hours. If you're doing an event or a function in a kitchen, you're not going to see daylight. I'll give you an example. I have worked as a casual chef over the years at various race meetings around Yorkshire, and I've worked in the parade ring at York races when there's had some huge race meetings on, and never seen a horse from one day to the next, because I've just been in the kitchen with my head down cooking, and I have not, I've got home, my wife said, "What did you see in the races?" "No, I was working." "Did you see any horses?" "No, didn't see anybody. I saw food, a lot of food." And so you are in there in that atmosphere for 10, 12 hours. You need to then value your day off and make sure that you do something with it so that you are fresh when you go back into that environment again. Yeah. And it's something to talk about amongst your chefs and friends.
Yeah, for sure.
Brilliant. Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Well, I think if we've no more questions, then all we have is to say thanks again to David, and thanks for sharing your story with us. It really helps us to get a really good idea about the environment, warts and all sometimes, because it's not perfect, but it is something that you and I hold dear to our hearts, because it's where we kind of got that light bulb moment of, this is going to be good. This is going to be something that I enjoy, and it's spanned over 30 years. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I do hope that at some point we'll be able to get together and face to face and let you come into some of the groups and everything like that when we're back to some sort of normality. So thanks again.
No, not a problem. I've been really lucky with Springboard. I've done all sorts of things. We did the Michelle Roux thing a few years ago, and I went down to Olympia a couple of years ago with Springboard. I've been really good at it. It's an absolute joy to be an ambassador for Springboard, because I can talk about myself for a bit, which is always
That's so good to hear. It's so good to hear. I do a bit of the ambassadors training, and everybody is very much like you. They want to give something back, and I'm very lucky that I work for Springboard and have had a hospitality career as well, and that's why I'm here, because I do want to inspire people to come in. And sometimes I was going into hotels and I was seeing people, and not our kids and not our own, and I was kind of like, I need to get the word out that this is a great place to work, and so that's hopefully what we do, and we inspire people. And because of ambassadors like you coming in and helping us to just reiterate what we're saying as well, and sometimes coming from the horse's mouth as an employer, it penetrates as well, so thank you.
No
Sam, we've got a wee question on the question list here, sorry, from Duncan.
Sorry,
Duncan's
that's
one
my
of my
fault.
no, it's all right. He's saying, which royal did David meet?
Oh, it was Prince Edward. It was a long time ago now. It was I was working at a restaurant in Wetherby, which is not there anymore, and the guy who owned the restaurant also owned a factory, and he was having some work done at the factory, and Prince Edward came to open it, and I don't know whether it's because I was the smartest or what, I don't know, but I was the one who had to follow him around with a tray of drinks whilst he was doing his tour of the factory. And so I just followed him round, and that was it. Apart from saying thank you, I think that was about all he said to me all day. So,
but you did meet him. That was the
I
thing.
did meet him, yeah.
Yes. That's
we've
it.
got
Another one.
We've got another question from Daniel. What's the best place David has visited through his work?
Best place I've visited?
Yeah.
Oh, I love the Savoy. Everything about the Savoy, because of its history, and it's where everything started, where Escoffier was there and Ritz were there, and I can talk about when I was doing my BTEC training last year, I had to do a micro teach, and I did it on Escoffier and Ritz because I can talk about them two all day. But Savoy is just fantastic, and the great thing about any of these hotels, Savoy, Ritz, is anybody can just go in and walk around, and people. So if ever you're not necessarily in London, wherever, if you want to have a look at a really fabulous old hotel, just go in, tell them you want to use the toilet, and have a look around. Get a cup of tea and have a look around and look at these fantastic old buildings, and some of them are just so amazing and so wonderful to look at, and you just think of all that history and the people that have come through these doors and sat on these chairs. I just think it's amazing. So that's my favorite place. Favorite place to have worked, I've just been so lucky. I've worked in hotels, but then I've worked in really big, busy, fine dining areas, and then I've worked in fast food, and I've done contract catering as well. I just enjoy everything that I can get out of everywhere. So I just make the most of each place I go to.
I know. I used to work for a general manager that used to work at the Savoy. When I worked at the Old Course in St Andrews, there were two new, the front of house manager and the general manager had come from Savoy, and Anne, who was our CEO, she knew them. So I was like, oh, this industry is small, isn't it?
It is very small.
Sometimes, everybody talks to one another, so it's fantastic. Well, I think that's everything, David. As I say, thanks so much again. Anything else, Isabel?
No, just thanks very much.